Hello everyone, welcome to this course on digital marketing. My name is Subin Sudhir and I will be the instructor for this program. During the course of this modules, we will be discussing different techniques, elements, some amount of theory and some examples from the real world about how digital space and digital marketing has made a huge difference in how we reach out to customers today. But before I start off with this whole course, I would like to start off with a small definition of what marketing is, because it is important for us to understand what marketing is before we delve into details of how it is done in the digital space. So I like to start off all my courses with this one central question: what is marketing? And it's very interesting. I get a large number of different answers for this one question. Some of my students think marketing is about advertising. Like most of you, you would feel that it is about creating a lot of attentive, lot of interesting advertisements so that you can entice customers to see and be interested in your products. Some other students feel that advertising is all about having a really motivated sales force. It is about making sure that there are people who are going to now sell your product and try to convince other customers to buy your product. There are other students who feel that advertising and sales is of course there, but marketing is more importantly about understanding the needs of customers and then providing solutions to these needs which can satisfy these customers. Now marketing is all of these, but marketing is a little bit beyond what all of these things are. So marketing has a formal definition like any other discipline. On my right now, you can see what the definition of marketing is. I'll read it out to you. Marketing is the activities, set of institutions and processes that are involved in the creation, communication, delivery and exchange of offerings which have value for customers, clients, partners and the society at large. Now I understand that it might be a little confusing definition at first. I'll try to break this definition down. Central to this entire definition of what marketing is the concept of value. Now this again is a question that is a follow through to the question which I started off with as to what marketing is. Value. What do you understand value is? Value is central to all marketing decisions and all marketplace decisions. Now the definition of or the conceptual understanding of what value is basically the net sum of all benefits and costs that a customer has to incur in order to have that offer. Now what do I mean by benefits and costs? There are different benefits that the customer gets by the consumption of a product. Say for example, you might be having a mobile phone with you right now. The mobile phone gives you a set of benefits. The first and most important benefit that you get from a mobile phone is the fact that you can communicate with your friends, communicate with your family members, communicate with other people in your workspace, in your colleges, in other places that you go to. So communication is one benefit that you get. Mobile phones today have other benefits as well. Say for example, you have benefits such as being able to watch a movie when you are sitting on the train, being able to play a game when you are not finding sleep, being able to find any sorts of entertainment at any point of time. This is again a benefit that the product gives you. There are other services that come alongside a mobile phone. Say for example, if your mobile phone fails to work one day, you have a service station where you can go to and give the mobile phone, it can be repaired very easily. So there are services that are provided to you as benefits. And on top of all of that, there is a certain image that you get as somebody who is able to access and use a certain mobile phone. Say for example, if you are one of those people who is carrying a new generation, extremely flashy, extremely costly and premium mobile phone, your friends will look up to you and say that you are somebody who can afford such a phone. So it gives you a certain esteem benefit. So there are different benefits that you can avail from the consumption of a product. There are of course product benefits, there are service benefits, there are image benefits. So if you add up all of these benefits, you get the net sum of all the benefits that you get from the product. Now in order to have all of these benefits, you also need to incur certain costs. What are the costs that you have to incur? Of course, the first and most obvious cost that you have to incur is the cost that you have to pay in order to buy that device or buy the mobile phone, as the example we were talking about. So this is basically the monetary cost that is involved. Now apart from the monetary cost, there are other costs that you need to incur as well. Say for example, you don't have a shop or a place nearby your house where you get the mobile phone. You have to travel say 100 kilometers to get access to such a device. Then there is travel cost that is involved. You don't know which mobile phone is the most appropriate for you. You might have to search for all the mobile phones that are out there. You might have to find out the different features and the different specifications of each of these devices before you go about and buy this phone. So there is a cost that you have to incur with respect to the time that you spend in searching for information on that phone. There are also other costs that are involved. Say for example, you are letting go of a certain other benefit that you could have had by spending money on this phone. So all of these costs can also be added up, like we added up all the benefits. And if you take the difference between all the benefits that you get and all the costs that you had to incur in order to get these benefits, you get what is essentially called as value. So benefits minus costs is what value is, and value is very central to all consumption decisions that we make. And that is necessarily why we have this very famous quote, a very famous term that we use, value for money. This is where we think about what is the offering, what is the product out there in the market that gives us the maximum value for the amount of money that we are giving. So value, like I defined to you, is central to what marketing is. Now we take this value and we do 4 things with this value. The first of these things is creation of this value. Now you would have understood by definition that to create value, you basically have to define what are the benefits that the customer gets, and you also have to define what are the costs that the customer has to incur. So in order to create value, you have to create a product. Say for example, we are talking still of the example of the mobile phone. You might have to create a mobile phone that customers can buy. Now creation of this mobile phone will incur all kinds of technology that goes into the mobile phone, the camera that goes into the mobile phone, the battery specifications that go into the mobile phone, the Android versus iOS versus other operating systems that are going to be used by the phone, the kind of services, the kind of warranty, all of these elements that are part of the offering that you're making, you have to create all of these things. You will also have to put a price tag to this mobile phone, or you will have to put a price tag to the offering that you're giving to the market. Thereby you are creating this value. Many companies use internal resources to create this value. There might be research and development teams. There might be engineers who work in mobile phone companies who are creating value for customers. There might be expertise that is outsourced at times. So in many ways, marketers are involved in creating this value. Now when you are creating value, one important aspect that you have to always remember is that this value should be important for customers who you are expecting to buy this product. And if this value has to be worthy enough for customers to buy, then you basically have to ensure that the value that you create is in line with what the customers expect. So that is where marketers are involved in understanding what are the needs and demands of customers. We will come to all of these concepts in the due course of this course. So that is about creation of value. Now once you have created value, it is not just important for you to have created value and then keep this value within the organization. You have to take this value out there to the customer and communicate this value to the customer. There are different vehicles that we use to communicate all of this value to customers. One important element that we use and something that you all would be very familiar with is advertising. There is a lot of advertisements out there. Same example, mobile phones. You might have seen there are a lot of advertisements about mobile phones. Some mobile phones advertise the fact that they have a great battery life. Some other mobile phones advertise the fact that they have extremely great camera quality. Some other mobile phones talk about the fact that they are durable and they are sturdy. So any of these value concepts or any of these elements of value that you have defined, you can take to the customer and communicate to the customer. So creation is the first element of what you do with this value. Communication is the next one. The third element is delivery. Once you have created value in the format of a product or a service or an offering, you have to then communicate all of this value so that customers are aware of it. Once the customer becomes aware of the value that you are offering, the customer might be interested to come and acquire all of this value from you. The customer might be expecting to buy this mobile phone from certain places. You have to ensure that there is a certain mechanism in place that will enable the customer to buy it from you. So you might have seen there are phones which are available on the online space. There are other phones which are available in electronic stores nearby to your house. There are also a lot of big department stores which carry mobile devices. So the marketer has to ensure that the delivery of all of this value is also planned properly. The place where the customer can come and buy this value from you is also defined appropriately. So that is where delivery of value happens. And the last element is exchange of value. There are a lot of things that you give to the customer. We defined what value is, what creation of value is, what communication of value is, and what delivery of value is. But there are a lot of valuable things that the customer has for you as well. One of the most important things that you derive from the customer is money. As exchange for the products and services that you offer to the customer, you have to get back money that is worthwhile for the benefits that you're providing. So there is exchange involved there. There are a lot of informational resources that the customer has. For example, do customers really like your product? Do customers actually feel that your mobile phone is worthy enough to suggest everything that it claims to have is really met? So you need to have a lot of feedback generated from customers. You need to understand how the customer feels about your product as compared to a competitor's product. So a lot of market research is also involved, where you get back a lot of value from customers. So creation, communication, delivery, and exchange of value is what we are going to define first. And this essentially is what marketing is all about. So when we talk about advertising, it comes into communication of value. When we talk about sales, it comes into delivery of value. When we talk about understanding the needs of the customers and fulfilling them, it comes into creation of value. So every different aspect that you see is somewhere or other related to this definition of what marketing is. And then we not only do this for customers like you and me. There is marketing that happens in organizations that are involved in a business to business domain. So that is where we call about marketing for clients. There are a lot of places where you have partners who are involved in business activities. So that is where marketing gets involved into helping or providing value for partners. There are also a lot of organizations which do a lot of societal activities, a lot of NGOs out there, a lot of companies that are really involved in making the world a better place, who also use a lot of marketing techniques. So that is why the definition of marketing essentially talks about the set of activities, institutions, and processes that are involved in the creation, communication, delivery, and exchange of offerings which have value for customers, clients, partners, and the society at large. So this essentially is what marketing is. We will delve into details of each of these concepts, and we will see how each of these concepts are relevant in the digital space in the next modules to come. Okay, so now that we have understood the definition of marketing, we also have understood the concept of value. We will move further with other concepts that are relevant. The first and most important of these things is to understand how you are going to operationalize your marketing strategy for customers. And the most important thing here is to understand what the customer is looking for. So we define three broad things in order to explain what customers look for. The first of these elements is the concept of need. Then we will discuss what are wants, and thirdly we will discuss what is a demand, because all of these three terms are very closely linked with one another, but they have different meanings when it comes to the understanding and operationalization of what marketing is. So a need is what the customer has as a basic requirement. Say for example, the customer can have both physiological and psychological needs. Hunger, for example, is a need, is a very basic need. Without food, you cannot survive. So when you feel hungry, we call that to be a very basic need. Thirst or any other needs that are basically required for your survival are what we understand as needs. Now many times the customer knows that these needs can be fulfilled by different things. Say for example, you can fulfill the need for hunger by eating dosa, by eating a hamburger, by eating pizza, or by eating something even more expensive. Now each of these things that the customer knows can satisfy that basic need of hunger is what a want is. So when the customer can identify an offering that can satisfy a basic need, it becomes a want. Not all wants can be satisfied or fulfilled by customers. There might be customers who want a burger but can only afford a dosa. There might be customers who want to eat at a 5-star restaurant but can only eat at a normal roadside vendor. So when the want is also accompanied by an ability to pay for that offering, we call it to be a demand. So needs are your basic necessities, wants are the offerings that are available which you can direct or you can understand as being able to fulfill these needs, and demands are when these wants are also accompanied by an ability that the customer has to pay for them. Now, once we have understood needs, wants and demands, we need to understand one other thing that is very relevant to how marketing operates, and that is you have very limited resources. Any company, for example, has limited amount of money to advertise, has limited people in the sales force, has limited partners to reach out to the market. So it becomes very essential for marketers to identify the right set of customers for whom they should create value, communicate value, exchange and deliver value. So to do this, we use the concept of segmentation, targeting and positioning. What is segmentation? You would have heard this term very frequently. What is segmentation? Now, if you take, for example, any market out there, the market consists of a large number of people. We generally call markets to be heterogeneous in nature. When you have a large number of people, say for example, people who are using mobile phones, there are a large number of people out there. There are consumers who are interested in buying mobile phones which are cheaper. There are consumers who are interested in buying mobile phones which can be used for playing very sophisticated games. There are consumers who might be interested in having mobile phones that have great cameras. There are other customers who are interested in buying mobile phones that have longer battery life. So if you take, for example, any product or any service or any offering, the consumers or the market in general is very large, it is heterogeneous. To satisfy the needs of all customers out there, it becomes very difficult for organizations. Think about the case of building a mobile phone that is the best for all customers. It might be a very difficult activity. One, you might not be able to achieve excellence in all different things that you do. And even if you are able to achieve excellence in all different things, your product might be extremely expensive because of which the customer cannot buy it. So it becomes extremely important for you to divide this heterogeneous market down into smaller homogeneous groups for whom you can create products, for whom you can have campaigns that can target them, for whom you can basically reach out to the customer by having a retail channel or having a delivery channel. So the act of dividing the entire market down into smaller homogeneous groups is what is essentially called as segmentation. Segmentation can be done by different means. One of the most commonly used methods of doing segmentation is at a geographic level. A geographic segmentation is where you basically break down the market into different regions on a geographical map. Say for example, we are talking in India. Food habits in the northern part of India and the southern part of India are diverse. People like certain foods in the northern part of India, people like certain other foods in the southern part of India. So you can have different offerings for different parts of the country depending on the kind of food habits that they have. Such kind of segmentation is called as geographic segmentation. Another way of which segmentation happens is based on demographics. Now demographics can include anything from age, income, gender, life cycle stage, all of these different things. Say for example, if you take offerings out there, for example, mobile phones. There might be mobile phones that are offered to customers who are in a certain age group. For younger people, you will have mobile phones that are more worthy of playing games, which might be more entertaining, which might have greater battery life. For a little older people, you might have phones which are loaded with features which can be used in a professional space. For people who are elderly, people who have difficulty to see and use a touch screen, you might have mobile phones with large buttons which can be easily used for these people. So this is a segmentation that has happened based on age. Similarly, you might have offerings which are for a really wealthy and really rich class of people. You might have other offerings for people in the middle class. You have people who don't earn as much. You will have offerings even for them. So segmentation can even happen with respect to the income group of people. There are different people who are in different life cycle stages. For example, somebody who is just married versus somebody who is thinking about getting married. There are different types of consumptions that these two people might incur. For people who have just recently have a child versus people who are still in college, there might be different ways in which these two set of people are consuming products. So based on age, gender, income, life cycle stage and other parameters that you can see on the screen, there might be a demographic segmentation that might happen. So geographic segmentation and demographic segmentation are very obvious, very easy to understand. The third basis by which segmentation can happen is based on how people think, how people believe that the world should be, how people's attitudes are about different things and different objects. So this is known as psychographic segmentation. Say for example, if you are somebody who is an adventurer, say for example, if you are somebody who believes in the idea of using green things versus somebody who is only interested in saving a lot of money. These are basic elements of personality of these people. So segmentation of the market can also be done based on the ways in which people behave, the ways in which people have attitude depending on the different things that they see in the world. So this is basically psychographic segmentation, which is the third way in which segmentation can happen. And the last way in which segmentation can happen is based on behaviors that people show in the marketplace. Say for example, if you are a frequent flyer, you get greater benefits from the airline because your behavior is in such a way that you consume air tickets and consume air travel much more than other people. So you might get extra miles for your travel, you might get freebies for your travel, you might not be having to wait in long queues, you might get privileged check-in counters, etc., based on the behavior that you show and depict in the marketplace. There might be other consumers who might be heavy users. Say for example, if you consume internet as part of your mobile package, and if you are a heavy internet user, the service provider will give you a package that is suited for you because you are a heavy user. So based on your behavior, based on the kind of consumption that you do, you can be also segregated into different sets of people. So that is the last basis by which segmentation can happen. So geographic, demographic, psychographic and behavioral are the four ways in which you can do segmentation. But by doing segmentation in any of these ways, you basically are trying to break down a very complex and heterogeneous marketplace into smaller homogeneous groups. And by breaking them down into smaller homogeneous groups, you are now able to reach out to one or a few of these groups and make products and make services and make offerings that will be most appropriate for one or a few of these groups, rather than having a product that doesn't necessarily be good enough for any of these set of people. So that is why we do segmentation. The next activity that you do is to identify one or a few of these groups wherein you can go and try to offer your products and try to make revenue from these groups. Targeting is where you identify which of these segments or which of these segment is going to be the key or the central segment where you are going to offer your products. So you have to basically look for 5 different things when you are trying to do targeting. The first of these things is that the segment should be measurable. The second is where it should be substantial. The third is where it should be accessible. The fourth is where it should be differentiable, and the last is where it should be actionable. Now I will talk about each of these different things. Now think about the case where the entire heterogeneous market was divided into smaller homogeneous groups, which we call segments. The segment should be measurable. When I say the segment should be measurable, you should be able to measure key factors that are relevant to you in each of these segments. Say for example, the number of customers who are there in each of these segments, the total number of competitors that are there in these segments, all of these different elements should be measurable. The second element is that the segment should be substantial. When you are thinking about entering a certain segment and trying to offer your products to one certain segment, you should be able to get revenues or get money from that segment, which is going to be enough for sustaining the costs of your business. It should also be able to provide you profits. It should also be able to give you growth potential in the future. So the segment should be substantial in itself. The segment should be accessible. The segment should not be something that is very difficult to reach out to. It should not be very difficult for you to get into that segment. You should be able to access this segment, and that is where we say that targeting should be done in a way that you are looking into segments which are accessible. The fourth element and the most important of all of these elements according to me is that the segment that you choose should be differentiable. There are going to be a set of competitors that you will have to compete against in the marketplace for the offerings which you are providing to the customer. Say for example, if we go back to the example of a mobile phone, there are going to be a set of competitors out there. Now the segment that you choose should be in such a way that you are able to differentiate your product as opposed to your competitors. And the last one is where your segment should be actionable. When I say actionable, there are these elements of a marketing mix that we generally use in order to create a marketing strategy. You should be able to create a difference from everybody else by using the marketing mix elements that you are employing. So the product, the price, the place and the promotion should be giving you a different result as compared to another segment. So that is where we call about the fact that targeting should be in such a way that it is actionable. Each of these elements together will define which is the target group that you are going to decide. So, we started off with segmentation, we took the whole market, broken it down into different smaller groups. We looked into each of these groups as to what are the key factors that are relevant to us, what kind of potential do each of these have, do we have enough scope to differentiate ourselves, do we have ability to access these segments, and are these segments actionable. All of these elements are looked into to identify one or a few of these groups that we call as target groups. This is what essentially targeting is. Now, once you have done segmentation, you have gotten down to a set of groups which are most appropriate to you. The next element is called positioning. So, that is where segmentation, targeting and positioning are key, STP. So, we are talking about positioning now. What is positioning? Positioning is where you are trying to create a position for yourself, and the position that you create is not in the marketplace, but in the customer's mind. Because it is important for us to understand that the customer is a person who thinks, who understands reality, who has a world view of how his needs are, his requirements are, what are the different products out there, what are the key attributes of each of these products, how is product A different from product B, how is mobile phone A different from phone B. And for the marketer, it is important that we create an image in the customer's mind. That is what we try to do by doing positioning. And to do positioning, we have a set of vehicles that we can use. Say for example, you can use advertising, you can use sales promotion, you can use retail presence, your product itself can be used for position. But the key here is to understand that you are trying to differentiate yourself from the other players in the market. Now, differentiation can be done based on the product that you offer, it can be done based on the image that you offer, it can be done based on the people who work for you, it can be done based on where your product is available, it can also be done with respect to the price that you offer. Now, to do differentiation, you have to identify what are the specific points of differentiation which are going to make your product different from the other products that are out there. Say for example, if you are a mobile phone company that is pioneering mobile phones which have exceptionally great battery life. We live in an age where most mobile phones have a life of say at max 1 day or 2 days. Now think about yourself as a company which has come out with a mobile phone that has a battery life of a week. This becomes a point of differentiation as compared to other people in the marketplace. Now when you position yourself as somebody who is the leader with respect to battery life, you are able to create a different image. Every customer who now thinks about your product knows that you are known for exceptional battery life. You can think about creating an image for durability of the product, you can think about creating an image for service that you are offering, you can think about any of these elements and identify a point of differentiation. Once you have identified a point of differentiation, you have to create the marketing mix elements, which is the product, the price, the place and the promotion which coincide with these points of differentiation that you have created. Now, let me also tell you that we are not always trying to be very different from the competition. There are some elements which also have to be very closely associated with the competition. These are generally known as the points of parity, wherein you are creating a lot of features in your products or offerings which are closely associated with other competitors in that certain category. We know how the phone looks. If you are going to drastically change the styling of the phone, say for example, today you have a phone which basically is a flat phone which has a touchscreen display which is not very thick, which is basically a rectangle in shape. Now think about the case where I am giving you a phone that is a cylinder, that basically is a very bulky cylinder. Now customer does not associate it with the regular phones that he sees in the market. So your product has to be different from your competitor to differentiate it, but at the same time there are a lot of features and a lot of characteristics which customers associate with a certain category of products. So you have to also be close to these category products or these points of parity. Now once you have identified which segment to enter into, once you have done your targeting properly, once you have created a position in the customer's mind, then you can actually get to the market with the marketing mix elements, which are the 4 P's which we will discuss next. Okay, so the 4 P's of marketing, like you would have all heard about, or the marketing mix is what we will discuss next. So these 4 P's are essentially what we try to strategize and what we try to change in the marketplace. These include the product, the price, the place and the promotion. What is the product? The product is basically the offering that you give to the customer. It can be something that is a pure good, it can be something that is a pure service, it can be something that is a combination of the two. Say for example, in the case of a mobile phone, the product is the mobile phone, it is also associated with a set of services that go alongside. Say for example, the after sale service that you get, the warranty that you get, etc., etc. So that is what the product is all about. Now the product is associated with a certain cost that you have to incur, that is what the price is. A mobile phone can be 20,000 rupees worth, the mobile phone can be worth 50,000 rupees. These two elements are extremely important because many times the customer starts comparing these two elements. The customer starts comparing the product, the features of the product with the price that the customer has to pay. So the product and the price are very critical in the success of any product. The third of these elements is the place, or the third P is what place is. Now place is where the customer can actually come and purchase the product. Remember we discussed about the electronic store near to your house or the department store where you can buy your mobile phone from? That is essentially what the place is. So which is the place in the market where you can go and buy this product? So that is where we talk about place, and the last of these is promotion. Promotion is where you are trying to make sure that the customer is aware of your product, the customer is motivated, and the customer has a good reason to come and buy your product. So it could be advertising, it could be sales promotion, etc., etc., etc. So all of these four elements is what we have with our hands, in our hands, to play around with and make sure that we can generate as much revenue from the market as possible. Now the reason why we dealt into detail of what marketing is, what value concept is, what segmentation, targeting, positioning is, and what the 4 P's are, is because we want to introduce all of these concepts to be similar to what we see in the digital space. Say for example, marketing in the digital space and in the traditional space is more or less the same. You are still creating, communicating, delivering and exchanging value for customers in the digital space. If you think about an e-commerce company, it is delivering and exchanging value to customers. If you think about a company that is a pure play retailer, it is delivering value to the customers. If you think about a company that is interested in creating entertainment for you, like the YouTube channels that you see, they are creating value for you. If you talk about different types of social media and digital media promotions that we do, you are communicating your products to the customer or communicating value to the customer. So the definition of marketing still holds in the digital space. If you think about segmentation, targeting and positioning, we still have to do a lot of segmentation in the digital space. Although in the traditional space, segmentation is a difficult activity to do because you don't have data for customers. In the digital space, segmentation becomes very easy. Say for example, you would have seen a lot of search engine advertisings. You would have seen that every time you go to the search engine and type for some specific set of information, you will see a lot of product advertisements or a lot of links which are sponsored that pop up. When you go to social media, when you go to Facebook, you would have seen that a lot of advertisements about products which you were looking for at an e-commerce platform and didn't purchase are popped up to you. This is all ways in which the value is communicated to you. Now the way by which the marketer reaches out to you is based on either your geography, either the demographics that you have, your age, gender, income, etc., or the kind of browsing behavior that you display. So even in the digital space, there is a very strong presence of segmentation, there is a very strong presence of targeting, there is a very critical method by which the products are positioned into your mind. Say for example, you might see certain advertisements where products are displayed in certain fashions. You might see that the product is doing certain social campaigns so that they create an image of being socially aware. All of these elements are done in a way to position the product and create an image of the product in your mind. You would have also seen that in the digital space, you have the 4 P's operationalized very effectively. The product, it could be a traditional product, it could be a product that is completely digital. It could be a product like a mobile phone, it could be something that is similar to a YouTube channel that gives you a lot of really rich content. So the product holds in the digital space. Price, you have traditional channels where you are paying a certain price, you have subscription based models or a freemium model or other business models that are operational in the digital space. The place that you get the product from in the traditional space, it was predominantly retail or direct selling, where you either went to the store and bought products for you, you went to the hospital to get a service, or you went to say for example a bank to get certain financial services, or you had direct selling where people came to your house and sold the product to you. With the emergence of the digital space today, you have a new business model that operates. Say for example, you have e-commerce sites where you can buy the product comes to your house, it's shipped to your house. You have other services and other offerings that are also delivered to you from the digital space. You have the last P, which is promotion, which has significantly changed, which will be a major impact or a major area that we will discuss. Say for example, how has promotion changed? Traditional advertising is not as relevant as it was earlier. You have digital and social media that is picking up. So all the different elements of the definition of marketing, the concept of value, segmentation, targeting, positioning, and the marketing mix elements, all of them are still relevant in the digital space. And in the course of the remaining sessions in this program, we will be discussing about each of them in detail. So a basic understanding of what marketing is, what value is, what segmentation, targeting and positioning is, and what the marketing mix elements are, is what the first session is offering to you. So we will come back in the next session and discuss in detail about consumer behavior and what relevant theories are important for us to understand in how consumers behave in the digital space. Thank you.